How we doing, everyone? So today we're joined with Mark McMillan. So myself and Mark, we go back, must almost be about 10 years now, under 15s in it, Partick Thistle, and then we played with each other at Clyde. So Mark got to see plenty of my horrible defending. He was my goalkeeper, so he got to make up for it at the end. Mark's been out in America playing at a top 15 at University of Western Ohio. Did a few years there, moved on to Rio Grande where he was doing the goalkeeping coaching and some assistant coaching. And now he's about to move into an assistant coach's job at University of Northwestern Ohio again. So how you doing, big man? You good?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. So just to start this off, probably just give the guys listening at home just a bit of your background, where you played at home, sort of transitioning into that first team environment, and then we can move into your time stateside after that.
Yeah, so it's kind of a traditional sort of route into academy football, really. Played boys' club, like my local boys' club growing up for 4 or 5 years. And then it was actually through my primary school. Our kind of coach that came in was a scout for Partick Thistle. And they were kind of just starting a youth academy up again. And he was like, look, I'm going to put your name forth for the kind of the trials or whatever. So I was like, yeah, whatever. And then went through them. I'd have been, how old? I'd have been maybe 11 or 12. Ended up signing there. And I was there for 3 to 4 years. As I say, I played with yourself. I had a great 3 or 4 years. I loved it there. It was a really interesting time. You know, I was there just before they got all the kind of money from the boy that won the lottery, if you remember. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
remember the name off the top of my head, but I was kind of there before, so it wasn't always kind of the most glamorous as everyone would see academy football. But mate, I loved the club. I met a lot of really good people there. Worked under some really really good coaches. So I was there till about under 15s, 16s, and then I got released. And kind of was kind of thinking like, oh, what am I going to do here? My mate asked me to come and play for his boys' club, so I did that for maybe 6 months, but it wasn't for me. It was just it's a bit rough and tumble, and I was kind of looking to try and get back into academy stuff, and luckily enough, Ryan McLaughlin that does stuff for Scotland, his sons, sorry, were at similar ages to my brothers, and played on the same teams and that, and he knew that I was looking for a club, and his oldest boy was in at Clyde, so he kind of said to me, "Oh, look, would you be interested in coming in?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." Did a week trial. I ended up signing, so I was there. I kind of did the two years at 16, 17s, like the dual age group. Again, was brilliant. Met a lot of really good lads and kind of really good coaches, and then it was weird how it kind of worked out. So the goalkeeping coach for the first team at the time would come in and take a session on a Friday, and he really liked me. I kind of was always singing my praises, saying how well I was doing, and he'd come and watch my games, and I would be doing well in games. So I kind of got the opportunity to go in and train with the first team a little bit towards the end of the 17 season, the second season at 16, 17s, and that was unbelievable. Like, talk about top players, and obviously Barry Ferguson was the manager at the time with Bob Malcolm, so kind of household names in Scotland. So to be a 16, 17-year-old lad going in and training in that environment was unbelievable. And then I think a second choice goalie for the first team ended up getting, yeah, I think he had an illness or something. So I ended up being on the bench for like the last 3, 4 games of the year, which was just surreal, to be honest with you.
yeah.
I pined myself every time I was going in, going, I should not be here. There's no way I should be here. But I did okay in training and stuff. And then I just got pulled in last game of the season. I walked in and to the changing room, got told, come into the office. Went into the office and I got an amateur contract. Probably you're signing that year with us for next year. So I was in with the first team for 2 years. Didn't play a whole lot, but what an experience in terms of making that jump to men's football. I probably wasn't ready for it at the time, and it was something that, you know, I look back on now, and I probably didn't. I took for granted. I didn't really make the most of it, but I will say the experiences I got from there in terms of like how to be professional and that wanting to win and everything, like that's really stood me in good stead for coming over here. And as I say, there was ups and downs. I didn't play particularly much. I was training a lot. Like, I was always in kind of in the squads and stuff. I made my debut my first year. I think I came off the bench when the goalie got sent off and did okay. But they brought a boy in on loan from Partick Thistle at the time. They thought I was too young, which is fair enough. I was only 16. I just turned 17 at that point, actually. So I ended up being the third choice till the end of the year there. And then I ended up getting another year where I kind of was able to play in the reserve league at the time and sat on the bench. But it was difficult. It definitely was difficult. Not playing regular football and kind of having that desire to move from kind of reserve football into men's football and get more experience. It was always difficult. So towards the end of the year, I kind of decided, like, look, I'm not staying at Clyde, but I really don't know what I'm going to do. I had a couple of offers to kind of move clubs and do a similar sort of role, but I was kind of getting disillusioned with it. You know, it's all well and good saying that, oh yeah, I'm in a first team environment, but I don't play. So yeah, you're part of it, but you don't feel part of it. You know, the boys win and everyone's buzzing, but I mean, you've done nothing. Like, I've just sat on the bench. So, you know, I kind of didn't feel like a part of it at the time. So it was something that I was kind of in two minds about, like, what do I want to do? And the opportunity kind of just presented itself. An agent reached out to me and kind of said, look, the University of Charleston, big Division 2 programme, are looking for a goalkeeper. And I've recommended you, like, would you want to speak to them? And I was like, yeah, we'll kind of see what happens. Didn't know nothing about America. My parents were kind of the same. We'll listen to what they've got to say and then go for there. And spoke to the guy. He was brilliant. Facilities were first class. They're obviously a really, really good programme, but financially it wasn't quite affordable for me. So I kind of turned it down. And then, luckily enough, the coach at UNOH now, who I'm going to work back for, Tyler Brock, really good guy. He was best mates with the agent and had said, look, I'm in the running for this job at UNOH. If I get the job, like, I'm going to need players. So I ended up speaking to him. Brilliant, financially great. But, like, programme was good. I think they'd just come off the final four at that point the year before. And the facilities are first class. Dorms are brilliant. Grass field, indoor pitch. Everything just ticked all the boxes. So when it kind of came up, I said, right, I'll commit to it. And I've not looked back since, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, touching on a few wee points there, obviously, you know, being a goalkeeper in that environment, if you're not number one, you're always going to be feeling as if you're struggling, you're sitting at the side, and we'll touch on that a bit for goalkeepers coming out.
Yeah.
But you mentioned going into that first team environment, and that's a huge step. I mean, even at home, when we were going, if you went from like 15s to 17s or 17s to 20, that was a huge jump in itself as well. Do you think maybe coming out here as a 17, 18-year-old, the college system sort of gives you that bridge between going from that academy to then moving into a first team environment?
So I do think that coming out here can be useful. You know, I think a lot of people sort of look down on America back home, and I know a lot, for some of my mates, they kind of were like, oh, what are you doing that for? Like, you know, you're in that environment, why would you leave, this, that and the other? But, you know, I think it's really easy to be in that kind of, you kind of in that first team environment as a young lad, and then you might bounce around a few clubs, but you don't really make an impression, and then you're out the game after 3 or 4 years. And for me, like, the opportunity to go to America, try something different, play at a different level. I mean, play with players that have played at a variety of different levels. Like, you know yourself, in the NAIA, like, there is not a lot of Americans. It is really international. So I've played with lads from literally all over the planet and varying levels, and it just makes you a better player, in my opinion. And then you go for that, you're living on your own, you know, you're doing all the weight training, you're doing the full-time training. For me, it helped me develop probably a lot faster than it would have if I just stayed what I was doing and kind of just doing the part-time stuff and kind of sitting on the bench or playing reserve football on the weekend.
Yeah. No, I was the same. I mean, obviously we were training 2 or 3 nights a week. You know yourself. We were never the fittest guys
No.
in the team. Always at the back towing the caravans.
Yeah.
But I mean, training 5 days a week, you come out pre-season, you're in the heat as well. You know, like, you get extremely fit. Some of us were wearing the GPS vests in our last season. I mean, I'm covering, 11, 12 miles a game at centre back.
Yeah,
So
like
it's ridiculous. I would never have done that at home. Never. Obviously, for me coming out here, the game, it was completely different. It was a lot more physical. But centre back, you can expect things like that. How different was it for you coming out as a goalkeeper? In terms of where you had to be fitness wise, just the overall game in itself as well. Like, what were the main challenges and differences you found when you first came out?
yeah, the fitness was very different, I would say. All the way throughout, like Partick and Clyde, sorry, they would say to you like be fit, but there's never any really like you're not being tested or anything. There was never really any expectation on you. You know, if you were unfit, you were kind of getting told, look, make sure you're doing like going to the gym a couple of times a week or whatever. And then coming out here was just ridiculous. I laugh with my coach because he makes the goals do all the running. Like I did all the fitness and I hate it, to be honest with you. It really wasn't for me, but again, you talk about mentality and making you a stronger person, getting yourself through it. But like the pre-season was just, I'd never experienced anything like it. Like we would do the first week, we would do 3 a days, 3 sessions a day, then kind of taper down to 2, and then down to 1 session, and it was just madness, mate. Like you would do your kind of 2 fitness sessions during the day, and then at the end of on maybe the last session of the day, you know, like right, we're playing 11v11. If you lose, like this is what's happening, and it's just the most minging running you can think of. And it's honestly, mate, it's like playing a cup final. No one wanted to lose. So no one would really be running around. The ball would kind of just stay in the middle. No one would look to like overexert themselves. But you know, in terms of like being successful over here, like you have to be fit. I think is that's the difference between like good players and like the really good players over here is they're all good on the ball, but the ones that kind of seem to go to the next level are just really, really fit and strong. So that was a big challenge. And then for me, the biggest one was trying to play it for the back. Obviously, coming from where I came from, I used to get into trouble if you play it for the back from a goal kick. Like, I remember, I think I played a behind closed doors friendly with Clyde. We played Queen of the South, I think. And I tried to go short of a goal kick. And I got absolutely shouted at beyond belief. We play in their half, we don't play in here, this, that. And you kind of, it's just what you're used to back home. And then I came out here, and if I kicked the ball over 20 yards, like, you've got boys from like South America or Spain looking at you like, what you doing? Like, we play out regardless. So it definitely did take a little bit of time to adjust, and you kind of get what works for you in the sense of like, you know, sometimes you play short and sometimes you go long. It's just what your coach prefers, or if the other team, you know, if they're pressing you high, and you have to recognise that sort of stuff. So it definitely made me a better player and better with my feet probably as well than what I probably would have been back home, because you know there is demands on you about, you know, playing out for the back and being comfortable with playing, and you know you're involved in possession boxes and all that. Whereas back home, you know yourself, mate, goalies aren't always seen as the most important. We kind of get shoved into a corner and go do what goalies do, and no one really knows what we end up getting up to really. But whereas over here, I think you're more part of the team, and that you'll do your goalie training, but you are, if we're doing shape or we're building it for the back or possession, you are expected to be as good as, if not better than, some of the players that are in the session. So it definitely helped me become a better player for sure.
Yeah. And then, talking on that and then comparing what you said earlier about being in that environment, but being on the bench the whole time. Um, Obviously, there's a few different routes when you come out to America. When you first start looking at the process, everyone always goes lights and cameras of D1, and they
Yeah,
realise that that's maybe not going to happen for
yeah,
them. Then it's D2, then it's NAIA, then it's JUCO. But I think it's important that obviously we try to reiterate this a lot to our players is one, you want to be playing. Two, as long as you're in a good program, it's a good program, regardless of what division they're in. But as a goalkeeper, obviously you've been in behind some experienced pros where you've been number two or number three. But when you come out to America, you don't really want to be sitting on the bench. If you come halfway across the world, you want to be playing.
yeah.
So if you're coming out as a goalkeeper again, obviously you came out, I think you played off the bat most of the time. Someone's going in to compete with a keeper. Would you say maybe look at, the junior college route to guarantee playing time because they'll be going in at their own age, or looking at a good program and maybe being number two for 1 or 2 years, or just very case dependent on that?
Yeah, for me, I think it's case dependent. To be honest, it's when I was coming out, I think you'd have probably been the same as you have a criteria of like what you're looking for, and everyone's different. For me, like the top of my list was like, am I going to play? Obviously, the experience I had leading into going to America, like I hadn't played a lot. Like, yeah, you're training like all the day, like every session, and you're involved in like the game and like the warm up and stuff like that. But you're not developing if you're not playing at that young age, in my opinion, especially as a goalkeeper. So to come out to America and then do a third year not playing, I just thought it was going to be too difficult for me to then like really kick on and could I reach whatever my potential would be. So that was for me. But I've spoken to boys like I've played with that have come out here and they're happy to come in as a number two. And for them, they come out as a freshman and be like, oh well, I don't really know the system, or I want to get used to like living in America, and then I'll go to play. But the advice I give to anyone, and whether it's recruits or mates from back home that will think about coming out, whatever it is, do what's best for you. And if that's playing, go play. I cannot stand this, and it happens all the time. And I'm sure you get it the same as I'm only going Division 1. It's so like you don't understand. Like there's such a variety of levels out there, and everyone kind of looks down on like NAIA and JUCO, but mate, there's some unbelievable players that come from there that end up doing really well. That go play Division 1 and end up going to play pro or whatever. And it's just about kind of doing your research and being open minded. I mean, to like for a person to kind of have the notion to go to America, like it is not the traditional path for anyone in our kind of our circles. It was always, we're going to youth academy, then we're going to go play first team, and then if I do really well, I'll get a move abroad or whatever. But if you're open minded enough to consider America, I would be even like continue that and be willing to speak to coaches from different places. D1 isn't the be all and end all. Just like Division 2 might not be, NAIA might not be for you. It really is case dependent. I just got really lucky that I went to a school and I hit the ground running. I loved it there. I loved it, everything about it. I ended up meeting a boy that I think we both played with at Clyde, Scottish lad. I played with at Clyde for sure. He ended up coming the same year as me, and we got on really well, and that all helped me to stay in the NAIA. But I had mates that only lasted a year or two, and then they transferred out. And they went Division 2 or Division 1, but it really is case dependent.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously after you got your degree in Ohio, you then moved to Rio Grande to another top program within the NAIA, but you had a pretty unique role in there. You went in there for your masters, you go in as number two, but you've also got coaching responsibilities as well. So at that time, there's obviously the option to try and go and play pro somewhere. You could go home and, start living your life, get your career started or whatever. but you decided to, further your education, keep that playing career going a bit whilst you got into some coaching. So just talk us through that decision and what that experience was like for you.
The coaching thing was interesting. It was always something I wanted to do. I'd had conversations about going to a different university, to GA there, and I was more than happy to do it. And then, when I got the call from Rio, like the assistant at Rio was actually my roommate in college. So he called me and was like, "Look, we're looking for a goalkeeper and also a goalkeeping coach. Like, would you be interested?" And the offer was slightly better in terms of like what I was receiving. So it's kind of a no-brainer to go and work at a program that's like as highly esteemed as Rio. Was something that I was thinking, that really helped my kind of CV and the opportunity to go and work with good players and good coaches. And I don't regret it, mate. I had a really, really good experience. I can't honestly speak highly enough for the boys I worked with for the 2 years. I learned a whole lot. Doing the goalkeeping for the varsity was eye opening as well. The goalie we had was ridiculous, mate. He was unbelievable. He was only like 5'10", but he'd come from Real Madrid as a kid, got released, and then was at Rayo Vallecano for a couple of years, and then he came out to America. And when we talk about like playing out with your feet, he could play centre mid. Like, I had no doubt about it. He didn't even want to do goalkeeping training at times. I had to drag him to do goalie stuff because he'd rather join in rondos or go in a possession and play. He was that good with the ball at his feet, and he was also unreal shot stopper. And like, if he was a bit taller, he's probably going to go and play professionally. But to have the opportunity to work with him was brilliant. And then I was saying to you a little bit earlier off the call that I had the opportunity to kind of go and work with the reserve side, and our head coach Scott Morris is brilliant. He kind of said to me and the other GAs, like, "Look, I'm going to let you boys run the JV as if it's your own program." So they trained every day. We gave, I think they played like 16, 17 games as well. So we had a busy schedule, but it was good in preparation for my next step. And you're planning trainings every day. You're speaking to players and you're doing like film analysis. Players are kind of speaking to you like, "Oh, why am I not playing, or why am I not in the first team?" And you have to deal with all that sort of stuff. But as I say, for the 2 years I did it, I really, really enjoyed it. It was something that it made me realise this is definitely what I want to do in my life, and get into coaching. So it was brilliant. But obviously we made the final four my second year, and it was really satisfying. It's definitely different because you go for being a player and worrying about yourself to then being a coach, make you worry about everything. And it's not an exaggeration. Like, and then you put the boys on the pitch and you can't do anything. You have to just stand and watch, and it does get so frustrating. Like when things are maybe not going as well as you want them to be, and you're like, "Oh, why doesn't he just do this, or why doesn't he just do that?" And then sometimes you have to think, right, well, when you were a player, it used to be the same thing. So it's definitely been something it took me like a year to kind of really get used to the fact to, like, look, you're not in control anymore. As much as you think you might be, the boys kind of have to kind of trust your players, and it kind of stood me in good stead, really.
Yeah. So obviously a great experience. You've got that playing experience, the coaching experience. You've now got yourself a job as an assistant coach, which is going to bring in recruiting responsibilities as well. So obviously we've got players that are looking to come out as a coach that's working at a top end program within the NAI. What are you looking for when, guys like yourself are trying to promote players? What are you looking from that player, in their footage or their grades or stuff like that?
I think the first thing you look for in any player is like, their ability is the first thing. You get the video and you think to yourself, like, are they going to be better than what we've got? Because if you're better than if you're recruiting, you want to bring in better than what you've got or as good as. You don't like. There's no point in bringing in lads that are lesser because you're not going to add anything. But in saying that, I think some boys seem to think like that's all I need, and it's actually like ideally you're looking for more than that. The big thing for me as well is your personality and your attitude. Like things aren't always going to go your way. You know that yourself. And being out here, it's kind of like a roller coaster. The highs are really high, but you know the lows can be really really low. And it's just trying to find someone that's going to embrace that and is willing to kind of work with you. And when things aren't going well, rallying together and trying to help each other. And that can be in a team sense. It could be like on a personal level. You have to be willing to kind of be a good person and help those around you and be willing to accept help when you need it. And I think that's also a really big thing. Is a lot of boys it's football and it's just all about me. And it's never, even when I was back home, it was never something I could ever understand. We play a team sport and it's all about together. It's we, not the I. And I mean, that would be something as well that I think is really important. As good as you think you are, be willing and open to being part of a team and doing what's required to kind of be the best for everyone.
Yeah. And then just adding on to that, grades are a huge part to make things, financially affordable and maybe more attractive to coaches as well. Because if there's academic money coming in, coaches then have to give less athletic money. So just a wee minute on that as well. How important is that when you're looking at a player? If you've got someone of similar standards, but someone's got a good GPA compared to a lower GPA, you're probably going to take the guy with the higher one.
Yeah, I think that's a certainty. And for America, coming out to America, it's all we're recruiting you for football and on your ability in that, but you are going to university as well, and there is requirements that you have to meet. And I mean, for me at the beginning, I always struggled with that balance of being a good student as well as a good athlete, and it did take me a while to kind of get used to, but I can honestly say, getting a degree is the reason you come out here. For as much as you think it's a football, the degree is what gets your foot in the door after football's finished and kind of opens up life. I mean, and talking personally, like I don't get the opportunity to GA if I don't get my undergrad, and then I don't get the assistant job if I don't have my masters.
Yeah, the whole sort of process is just that life experience. If you go home, you're going to be set up. If you stay out here, you've got all this experience. Being a student athlete out here speaks volumes in itself. If you've been getting some academic awards as well as being a student athlete, employers know that you can balance a lot of things and be committed to a lot of things. It's been great having you on, mate. Great insight on a lot of things, especially for any goalkeepers coming out and just seeing the sort of different routes you had to go through, comparing it to maybe their own journeys at home and what they could potentially achieve out here. It's been great for that. So thanks for jumping on. All the best in your new job next season, and hopefully we'll have some top players coming out up in Ohio at some point for you.
Yeah, mate. And as I say, thank you for having me on. It's great to see what you've done. Obviously, I've known you for what feels like forever now, so it was good to see you come over and do really well. And I'm delighted for you and the rest of the boys for starting this sort of thing. So wish you nothing but the best, and hopefully we can get some good players over.
Yeah, I appreciate it, mate. Right, thank you.
No worries.